Hello, everyone. Welcome to another All-Stars exit interview. I am joined by one of my lovely hosts, Alex Trias. Woo woo! And of
Woo!
course, Lily is here asking all the questions. And Jeremy, sad to see you here so soon. We, waited a long time to get your exit interview in Yasawa, and we just needed to get it over with apparently this season.
Apparently.
Yeah, so welcome.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, so to just start off, what were you thinking when you heard about All Stars? Were you like raring to go? Were you hesitant? Talk us through that whole mindset.
So it was kind of a big mental debate if I really wanted to do All Stars or not after doing Yasawa. Um, but I felt like I still had something else to prove going into All Stars, and really that was just to kind of see if I can really play my own game and make myself known, which is really kind of what didn't happen at the end of Yasawa. So that was my big thing going in. And then just trying to knock off that last tick of just winning the game.
It's interesting because you say like you wanted to be like known. You say it didn't happen and you saw it, but I feel like after the fact it did because you were on the top of a lot of people's minds in this game.
Yeah, it wasn't a big concern for me the first night of the game. But right after the challenge and we all get like on a group Zoom call as new tribes, Ashley throws out, "Oh yeah, and you're the person that created Jeremy's challenge." And then I had like multiple people message me that night saying, "I'm glad to see you because you were on production for my season." And then like it really started to kind of click that I'm like, crap. Like everyone knows who I am, and it may backfire in a bad way.
So do you feel like your production involvement backfired on you this season?
Um, I'm not entirely sure. I think from what I was hearing after the game was over was that people thought I would be able to find advantages very quickly. No, that is not the case.
We have changed so much since Jeremy has left production. He kind of basically showed up for mini day of Sahara Dunes, but like wasn't as involved with planning. So his really last season kind of involved with planning was Erik. Lalamana Beach and Erik were like the two that he was like, most involved with in planning. And like it seems like so far away,
Mm-hmm.
like so long ago when we were planning those seasons. So yes,
Yeah.
I'd say you were on par with everybody else for finding advantages.
Yeah.
Well, and let's talk about the one person that was really focused on you, right? We can't do an exit with Jeremy without talking about Corey. And we talked to Corey in his exit interview about, y'all's relationship. And so let's get the whole chunk of Corey out, I think, one, right? So at
Yes.
first he's going for you. Then all this stuff happens. Then he's like, wait, I don't want to go for Jeremy. So talk us through, in your point of view, what really was going on during all that time.
Yeah. So when I saw Corey, whenever everyone got together on night one, I was like, okay. Like we've been here before. And then found out they were on the same tribe. That's where it got a little bit complicated because I knew that he would probably try to go after me very, very early. And so I wanted to stop that as soon as possible. And I knew the connections that he had on the tribe, which were Kylie and so a little bit of Ashley as well. And so I was really trying to see if I could separate that as much as possible. And the very first night, Austin and I, we had that Zoom call together, and we both brought up, do we want to work with Corey? And we both were just kind of very unsure. And in my mind, I was thinking, if we get grouped into a major alliance, fine, we'll work with him, but I have to keep my eye on him. And then after that call with Austin, I get on a call with Corey, and he's like, oh yeah, we need to get a majority of 5 or majority of 7 together to really solidify our like team morale. And I'm like, okay. I've seen this happen before. And so I'm like, he's wanting to do kind of like the same thing that he's done in the 2 other previous games that we've done together. And so that's where I was just like, I can't do this again. So I kind of talked with Austin again, and we really just like, okay, we need to kind of create our own group. And he was like, I'm going to try to get Zucker and Lex. I'm like, okay, I'm going to reach out to Shea because of my relationship with Brittley, and Brittley played with him in their season. And then I'm also going to try to reach out to Ashley. And so that was the group that we were kind of thinking. But then unfortunately, I had a very bad feeling waking up the next morning about where the day was going to go leading up to Tribal. And my worst fear was Corey's going to do something, and then it's going to pretty much pin down to me and Austin, and I have immunity. And so Austin's now the easy vote. And that's actually the way that ended up happening, which is unfortunate. But I think it freed up my game a little bit, because then I wasn't really pinned with Austin anymore, and I could play my own game. But then we get to the part where Corey's like, okay, now we got to work together because I think we're on the bottom. And I'm like, I just wanted to tell Corey, like, dude, I have a feeling like you put us in that position. But like, I was just like, oh yeah, well, let's just try to find a way out of this. Meanwhile, I mean, you see in the episodes, I'm funneling all this information over to Lex. And I had a backup plan just in case if like Austin went home in that first vote, and that was to tell a select few people Corey's game and how it might explode if he does what he normally does. And I had to tell the right group of people, because in that way that information spreads. And then if it does happen, then they're like, oh crap, now like Corey's playing too hard. Now I need to get rid of him. So I did have a backup plan leading into if things went bad. And it actually kind of worked in my favor, because the day that Corey went home, I had a very full day of work with advising meetings, and then meetings outside of advising. Like I was telling people, like, I don't have time to talk. Like I have personal stuff. And like that entire day, like I barely talked to anyone. And so I really had to rely on my relationship with Lex and with Sarah to really just keep my name out of it. And then if it is my name, flip it so it isn't me.
We saw that with Sarah. Sarah was just like,
for sure,
let's just not Jeremy. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's talk about that side of things, because we know you, Jeremy. you like to, especially early on, and you said yourself, you want to play more of a under the radar, be a little bit quieter, let other people be the louder personalities, the louder vocal people. We see your connections with Lex and Sarah. Based off like how we see in the episodes, would you say it's very more accurate that those were the people, like remove Corey from the situation, remove Austin from the situation, from everyone else on the field, those were the 2 people you were gravitating the most towards and who you wanted to work further into the game with?
Yeah, definitely. The first night, it was really Zucker and Ashley that I was like really gravitating towards. And then after the next day, I have a really long conversation with Lex, and like we click instantly. Like our partners are in the same field, and we just kind of do very similar things. And then Sarah was actually the person like I was like intimidated of the most, like in that first challenge. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's a beast. And I was like, I was very weary of Sarah. But then like we just started talking, and we near the swap, we were connecting a whole lot.
Mhm.
And so yeah, Lex and Sarah were the people that I were connecting with. Yeah.
I have a what if question based on that. Okay, so we see in the swap, I'm going to skip forward a little bit. We see in the swap that Sarah kind of becomes isolated, and she's the person you just said you know, really wanted to work with, really liked her. If you had been on a tribe swap with her, let's say you take the spot of Maddie. And so it's you two with Mike, Simmons, and Austin. What do you do there if the failed fraternity section, as Mike called themselves, is going to go for Sarah, and Sarah's going to, you know, maybe go for Mike, and you're stuck in the middle? What do you do?
I go to Austin and be like, hey, like, I know, like, it was bad over there the first night, but I'm like, I just explained, like, I think we can move forward going with Sarah, and just really just try to pitch that Sarah and I were on like the lower totem pole of the original tribe. Because I did kind of see that like it was like a huge group, and then Sarah was giving me more information leading to the swap, and so I kind of figured, okay, she may be a little bit not on the inside, and so I could use that to my advantage. So then I would try to say, hey, Austin, us three and Simmons, because I know Simmons in real life, and I was like, let's just take out Mike, and then we can go from there.
Nice. I love a what if. Well, in another relationship, you know, I think we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but your ability to just talk to people on Zoom and really connect with them, it comes across in the episodes. I mean, we even see a confessional from Kylie say, I really like Jeremy. Like, I feel like we've made this connection. So where did Kylie kind of play into all of that on top of Sarah and Lex?
So there were two wild cards that I kind of felt like that were in the tribe, and one of those was Kylie, the other being Shea. And I do feel like Kylie and I had some really great conversations. But I wasn't really sure kind of like where she stood game wise with a lot of people. Because just talking with Corey, and he would like say some stuff about like his relationship with Kylie and like the information that she's feeding him. And I'm just like, it doesn't add up. And so I did feel like Kylie was playing both sides and then just trying to figure out which side is going to be better for her.
Which, yes.
Yeah, which you can see in the
call.
episode.
Yeah, good call.
Good read.
Yeah.
And so, and then I also knew that Kylie and Karen had a relationship. And I was just like, I don't know if Kylie and I get further in the game, I don't know if I can trust Kylie to keep me safe from the other side. So I would always go back and forth with Kylie. But I will say she was probably the person I talked to with the least, and I kind of wish that wasn't the case. But it is what it is.
I guess kind of piggybacking off Lily asking about Kylie, you talked about Shea being the other wild card, and then we have this kind of segment in one of the episodes of I just massively messed up with Jeremy. Can you like walk us through that moment, if it actually felt as bad as Shea kind of made it seem, or you know, that kind of
Yeah. So Lex and I actually talked about this after the episode was over, because he found it funny, but then I told him I was like, I felt bad watching that back. And it was mainly because that was soon after the Austin vote. And so after that happened, I was pissed. And it wasn't because they decided to vote out Austin, and like they were trying to say that some people were trying to say that like Austin and I were kind of linked as a duo because we weren't talking to a lot of people. That wasn't real like the big issue. The big issue, and Austin actually talks about this at Tribal, and it was people are saying that we were not talking a lot of game with like other people. And when I heard that, Lex was the one that told Austin and I together in a Zoom call about this. And like I flipped out because I'm like, I literally just spent all day talking to pretty much everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, why? And so fast forwarding past the vote, my talk with Shea happened right after I had a conversation with Kylie. And I believe Kylie was telling me that when the 7 was formed, it was Lex and Shea in a Zoom call together, and then they were pulling people in. And so my guard with Shea immediately went up.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we had this conversation, I knew that Lex wanted to bring in myself, Garsow, and Shea. And when Lex was talking about like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm really in like any group messages, and I almost just called him out because I knew that was a lie. And so then I was just like, why are you lying straight to my face when you know that we have common ground? We have like a duo who wants to bring us in and make a group. And so that was my thinking. And then he was like, so what's new? And I was just like, you want to lie to me? I'll lie right back. And I didn't say anything. And could that have potentially hurt my game? Probably. But I was still a little bit mad about the Austin vote, which I should have moved on way before all of this. But can't control your emotions sometimes.
No, and that's accurate. But do you think like overall, especially for more specifically you and Austin, with this tribe setup, do you think it was just sort of like a clash of how people viewed like what talking game was? Because like I feel with you, I've seen a lot of screen time with you and Austin playing these games, and you guys are like, you guys can be direct, but you're more times than not more soft spoken. You're not going to be like the alpha in the room, and you have a lot of alphas in this tribe. It does in terms of like, you have Lex. He's gonna be a boisterous personality. You have Kylie, who maybe not be boisterous, but is a very cunning player. So she will cut to the chase with like, hey, this is what's happening, direct a vote. Shea does his thing with social. Like you have a bunch of people that are like very forceful with how they play the game. Do you think that was sort of like automatically just being placed in this group put you on your back foot?
I think, yeah, it definitely had a hand in it. And Shane actually talked about this in the game. We were having a conversation, I think it was either right before the swap or right after the swap happened. And he was like, yeah, I saw that you hadn't said anything in our group call in like 10 minutes. And I wanted to send you a message saying like, you should probably say something. But then I did tell him, I'm like, I'm a very introverted person and I don't do well in like big group scenarios. And like by big group, I mean like more than 5.
Right.
And so whenever like I'm in that big group, I don't really speak much, but I do watch, and I watch what people do. And I think that can also get me in trouble. But yeah, I mean, one thing that I wanted to try to do in this game was talk more and have more of a voice. But then kind of like what you were saying, like there were a lot of big personalities on this tribe. And once I knew that, I was like, I had to step back.
Where you could have stepped up though was the challenges. Where like you could have had the voice in the challenges where you didn't need to have the voice in the group calls.
Yeah.
So like we as prod know you're pretty good at Flip Cup. So like saying, hey, I'm pretty decent at Flip Cup, or like instead saying like you're what maybe you could have done in the challenge you sat out on. If you still sat out, that's chill, but I was in pretty much all your scramble rooms and you were just like
And I think to that was with the Flip Cup challenge, I think I did say something because someone was like, what is the order we should kind of go with? And I knew from Yasawa, you have a good start and you have a good and a good finish. I did mention that. And then someone, I don't know who said it, but they were just like, are you sure? Like they were really questioning like my advice. And I was like, okay, you want to do that? I will sit back. And then if we lose And if I go home, then I go home.
Mhm.
But it's just like, I have this thing in like real life where I get a little bit personal that if I offer advice, being an academic advisor, that's what I do for a living. And if you decide that you want to go against it or don't want to take it, then that's on you.
Mhm.
And probably my personality, like my own
Mhm.
personality came out a little bit there, which it shouldn't have, but it did.
It's not a horrible thing. I mean,
No.
it's better than the alternative, right? Of just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah, I didn't know that about the scramble room. So things you learn.
Some
When
things
you would
you learn.
exit.
So,
Oh, go ahead,
oh,
Alex.
sorry. I was gonna ask about back. Like we're now gonna I'm gonna bring it back a little bit because you're coming onto the island. You I obviously you're all in Oslo. You're all wondering who's gonna be here. Like I think it was safe for you to assume it was well, Karen's most likely gonna be here. You say in your interview that you expect Karen to be here. I'm not essentially saying I'm gonna make it my sole mission, but you're making it your sole mission that I will do better than Karen this go around. With that being said, I think it's a lot easier to say that before a game than when you actually start the game. Like, say you were on a tribe with Karen. Is there any sense of you thinking, do I need to get her out right away? Or is there I feel like she will want to bring me in, so I will use that for now. Let's see, what were you thinking with your Yasawa people who you thought would show up, and that, but more specifically with the Karen of it all?
Yeah. I would say if Karen and I were on the same tribe, it would have been a completely different story. I would have said, hey, Yasawa people need to stick together. We need to have each other's backs.
Exactly why we put Corey on your tribe.
See, but the thing was, with our tribe, there were 3 Yasawa people, and then 2 Trinity Falls people, and then a mixture of everyone else. That was immediately a red flag for me. I'm like,
so Austin is also exile.
Okay, but I know him from Yasawa. So, but he also had other relationships that you could work with. That's why I didn't really want to get rid of Austin.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of knew that I didn't want the Yasawa people to get pinned as they're gonna want to stick together and then bring in other people and then just dominate. That worked in Yasawa Islands with me, Corey, Phil, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really want that same kind of gameplay. I wanted to reach out, meet new people, because that's what I neglected to do in Yasawa Islands. But yeah, if it was just me and Karen on the same tribe, I would have worked with her and then gotten as far as we could together, and then the best person wins from there. But I will say, I was telling people on our tribe that whatever happens, I don't want to win. I just want to get farther than Karen. I was telling people that, just hopefully that they would just pull me along.
Mm.
So
I do wonder, because I mean, we've talked a little bit in exits about people doing their homework. Lex has his murder board or whatever. I think going into an all-stars, in my head, and this is literally just in my head, I'm not claiming it, but old school is exile and before for DCP. New school is anything after exile. And so if I were to go in being in the old school, I'd be like, oh, nobody's watched my season. Nobody's gonna go that far
also,
back.
it's the roughest to watch production quality wise. I'm sorry, but
but did you have that thought, being that you were, the first season, we were under a different name at that time? Did you think that maybe your gameplay wouldn't be so known because you were, so far back in the seasons?
Yeah, that thought definitely crossed my mind. I was like, if they don't know me from production, then they obviously they probably also didn't watch my season. Which I was hoping that they wouldn't, because then they really kind of know what kind of game that I was playing.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happened just on the very first tribal, I had to swap my game up a little bit, because it obviously people were a little bit aware of what I'm kind of known for.
Mhm.
So
That'll do it. It's the Corey of it all. No, I'm just kidding.
But it's also funny because like I was also thinking like, oh, no one's really gonna know about what happened to Asala unless people talk about it. And like I know we put our recaps, but I was or like the Kyle Durrett mini versions of the series, the summaries. Gasala was the most watched one.
Because I think it was the first one.
The
and
first one's always watched
we
the
had
most.
like a
but...
dead, but like we were dead, no content for a while, and then all of a sudden, but you know, there's a very special person on this cast for you, and I would love for you to talk about Brittley, because you were the one to bring Brittley into Lollivana Beach, and now you see her on the island with you. How would you have navigated the game with her? Because everyone else in the game are pre-existing relationships through Survivor. Brittley is like a personal relationship. And so I would love to know how you would have maybe navigated this had she been on the wrong side of the numbers, or like how a conversation would have went between you two.
And before you start, we know Brittley's answer to it.
It's a tough one. I would definitely try to save Brittley as much as possible. It's funny because like right like before the game started, we just stopped texting each other. And I didn't even think anything of it. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna try to prepare for the game, do as much as I can. And then, you know, if she's on there, then great. Probably won't be on the same tribe, but you know, there's a chance. And like I see her in the very first marooning Zoom call, and I'm like, yes. I was like, we just need to make it to a swap together. We just need to make it to merge. And then we could probably try to combine forces as best we can and really just try to dominate the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my plan going in. And I knew I had to tell someone like right away, just in case if things do kind of go a little bit wrong, or like there's a tribe swap and numbers aren't the way that they really need to be. And so I did tell Austin Moorhead right away, so that we can try to pull in numbers in many different ways. And then the only other person I did tell was Andrew. It was the night before the tribal where I go home, because I really just kind of wanted to see like how she was doing. And so I'm just like, hey, like what do you think of Brittley's game so far? Like, what are your thoughts? And then we talked about that, and he was like, that's an odd question. And I was like, yeah, like I know her like in real life. And like he's like, okay, cool. But yeah, like, yeah. But yeah, like I do wish that like we really could have played together. Like we talked about after the entire game was over, and but yeah, like definitely something that we wish we could have done, but just didn't happen.
Do you think that revealing this relationship to Andrew gave him like the ability to weasel in and not get voted out when you like eventually do get voted out on the swap tribe?
Yeah, that thought crossed my mind the morning after. Because once the swap hits, now Shea creates this OG Fumo group chat saying, yeah, we're not swap screwed. When I see this, I immediately roll my eyes and I'm like, I'm swap screwed. Because people were trying to make gunning for me since day one. And so as we lead up to tribal, my thought process if I'm safe or not slowly dwindles. And when I told Andrew this information, I was about 50-50. And then I woke up the next day and I was like, crap, probably shouldn't have done that, because now we can use that as information to the other three saying, hey, Jeremy has connections on the other side, just in case if he might flip. Like, that's something to think about, which in hindsight, it was probably true. I was going to flip on the entire Fumo tribe if I made it to merge. I really was just going to throw all of them under the bus, minus probably Sarah and maybe Lex. But yeah, like, I did kind of regret it afterwards, but I did what I did, and then I just kind of to live with it.
Yeah, it happens, in the game. And I feel like I would have done the same, right? And I think it would have been really great to see you and Brittley play. So I think we were all robbed of that, but especially you two. But you mentioned that you felt swap screwed right from the get-go. You get this note of the high rollers room. Let's talk. We see only one person goes. So with that hindsight, talk us through why you didn't do it. And with your hindsight now, would you have gone and tried to get the advantage?
Yeah. So before I left for work on that day, I told myself, I was like, you have to bring the envelope that says on your day off. Like, you have to take that to work. What do I do on, like, when I'm already at the office? And then people are like, okay, now you can open up your envelope. And I'm like, oh, crap. So I immediately put, like, in our tribe group chat, I'm like, yeah, I forgot it at home. And so, so the OG Fumo people, they did tell me, like, here's what it is. And I'm like, okay, I'm already on thin ice with these three people. I probably shouldn't go. Then also, because one of my side things from outside of work is I stream on Twitch. And so I basically play video games online. And when I told my rating group that I have, that I was going to be, like, in this game, I said, these are the days that, like, I'm possibly going to be gone. But if I do make it to this off day, then I'll be free. So I had actually already had set plans during the high rollers room, and I did tell the entire tribe this. And so this already just let them know, like, okay, he's not going to go. But what I did have a thought that, like, because I do have, like, a webcam when I do stream, I thought I could just turn off the webcam from the start of the stream and then still be vocal on stream and then go to the high rollers room. So that way, if anyone is watching the stream, which our tribe said that they were going to do, I was like, then I could kind of get off scot-free. But then I also thought, okay, well, if I do that, what happens if at least one of them goes to the high rollers room? Then I'm screwed. So I had to keep just a straight face with Shea, Ashley, and Zucker, because I didn't want them to think that, like, I'm trying to pull something. Even though I kind of was behind the scenes, just didn't work. Thanks, Zucker. But yeah, like, I was really just between a wall and a hard place with this swap tribe. Like, they gave me no wiggle room whatsoever. And, like, they really were watching me like a hawk to make sure I did not have an advantage.
Your live stream. They were, like, watching your live stream while they created what they called the low rollers room. And all four of them sat on a Zoom call together. Yep. So I feel like you giving this alibi plus being like, hey, come watch me do this, blah, 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 also set you at a deficit too, because now they're all hanging out. Granted, they might be watching you play, but it's still like you're not there either. It's like this disconnect.
Yeah.
So that might have even set you back further, even though you're like, hey, I'm trying to involve you in this thing that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And this sort of actually goes with a Facebook question we have from Kylie, and we sort of already touched one of hers, so I wanted to make sure we actually get hers in here. And she wanted to specifically know, what would have been an ideal swap situation for you? Because like we're talking a lot here about like you were in essence swap screwed based off the people on your tribe that you were swapped with. What do you think at that point in the game would have been a better scenario for you?
I needed just at least one ally, and whether that be Lex, Sarah, Brittley, or Moorhead, heck, even Garsow. I mean, him and we had a really good talk. Like, we had really good discussions right before the Corey vote. I really just needed someone who I could really just have any ounce of trust in the game. And like, I really thought like I could maybe trust Zucker. But then like, definitely like you see in the episode, he's kind of the one wanting to get me out. So, but yeah, just any of like my 4 allies that I kind of had in the game.
Cool. Yeah, and we're gonna keep going with these Facebook questions now. So we have one from Ashley. Jeremy, the hardest vote of the game for me. I love you as a person, but I just could not get a read on your long-term game plan. Did I make a smart decision voting you out, or did I fit into your game plan longer term?
It was a yes and no. I definitely wanted to work with Ashley. But the more she got connected with Lex and with Shea and with like a bunch of different other people in this 6, 7, whatever it was, our game talk really dwindled. And it's really unfortunate, because I really do love Ashley. Like, I think she's great. I think we really could have done a lot of work in this season. But she was right to vote me out. And I think John mentions this too in like the draft. Like, you don't want me at merge. And we'll quote Corey, I will start sniping people that I think are a threat to my game. And so I knew my time was coming. But yeah, it was smart for her to vote me out.
Okay. We are going to move on to Lydia's question for you. Jeremy, boy, am I bummed that our paths never crossed in this game. Watching you in the episodes makes me think we would have connected well. How do you think you would have fared in the game if you started out on the Ignis tribe?
I think it would have been a little bit more work since I didn't have a lot of previous connections outside of really mainly Karen and Brittley. Like, I know Simmons and Andrew just from a very brief time that we met in Pittsburgh. But I would have had to put in a lot more work with everyone. And I'm also really bummed that Lydia and I didn't get to connect in the game, because I really love all the Trinity Falls people. I think they are amazing. Trinity Falls is actually one of the seasons that I really didn't do much homework on before the season started, and I loved getting to work with all of them. Besides Lydia, which I wish that we would have gotten to work together. But yeah, I think
you have the John Maddie connection too.
That's very true. Although
could have done some work on Ignis.
Yes. I feel like I would have had a smaller target than I did on Kumo.
Yeah. A lot of options there. It would have been very interesting. It would also be interesting. I guess we would swap him with Brittley because we just wanted to keep that separate, and we would just deal with, let's see what you do with Karen.
Yeah, because I mean, we put you on Fumo, and then Karen also says, she's like, I have no allies over here. So we tried to do our best to like put people with people that they knew but didn't necessarily work well together. So
yeah. Well, the next question is from Carrie Underwood.
Whoa.
Jeremy, I have to say in Carrie's voice, I'm sorry. Please give McKenna and I a recommendation for a fun video game that isn't hard or scary. Thanks.
Oh my gosh, I actually had games written down on my phone. I don't have my phone with me. But I think one of them was what was it called? It was like a generic goose game or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
game. I think that game would be pretty fun.
All right, we'll take a look. We'll take a look.
Oh, I just got my phone. Hold on, give me 1 second.
in real time.
Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah. All right.
And then also Unravel,
Okay.
both for the Switch. So
Perfect. That's the one we have.
Well, the next question, we did not cover this, so this is going to be interesting. From Michael Zucker. Jeremy, you mentioned in one of your confessionals wanting to perhaps make a move post-swap, presumably against either myself, Ashley, or Shea. What was this move you would have wanted to make?
yeah. So once the swap happened, knowing who was on what tribe, I knew that I had a very high chance that I was going home next. If not next, if we lose the next challenge, I'm definitely going home. So what I wanted to have happen was I wanted to work with Andrew and then pull in one other person to vote someone out. Now, I was trying to use game relationships and factors, so I thought the one person I could maybe pull in was Zucker, since they have the Exile Island bond. So I think of this plan after the challenge, and then the next day, Zucker sends me a message saying, hey, do you think you maybe know who the second vote for you was during the Corey vote? And I'm like, okay, well, if you're asking about it, you're wanting information from me, then it was probably you. But I didn't really just want to call him out. So I played dumb. And I was like, I don't know, maybe Kylie because of the Corey, they're like their connection. And so I'd already red flagged with Zucker. And I was like, okay, well, I know one of them did it just in case if I like either myself or Corey like had an advantage or idol. So I knew that's probably why they did it. And I was like, okay, well, let me just have a conversation with Zucker just to kind of see where his head's at. So we get on a call. I can't remember if it was the day of the high rollers room or the day of the tribal. And like, I didn't really want to bring it up, like push it too far. I just wanted to see where his head's at. And then he's really just pushing like the four of us. We need to stick together. Like we can't budge. Like the only thing that's going to screw us is if Andrew has an idol or an advantage. And I'm like, okay, you're pushing this way too hard. Like, you're really telling me that you don't want me to do anything.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, okay, I don't think I can really trust Zucker. And Shea and I had this back and forth of like sizing each other up, and we really didn't trust each other. And then mine and Ashley's game has just kind of declined together. And so I was just like, I don't think I have like any room here. So then that is when I decided I just have to trust these three people. And so then Andrew sends me a message of like an hour before trial. He's like, hey, did you hear anything? Like, what are you thinking? I'm like, I had to lie to him, just be like, no, like I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
So that was the move that I wanted to make, but I kind of put my faith and trust in the wrong person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you even said in your final words that Zucker was the hardest for you to read.
He was. And when I would talk with anybody else about Zucker, they would just say, he doesn't want to make waves. We can just pull him along wherever. And I'm like, that's a little bit strong. So I was like, but like, I wanted to see for myself, like where I could go with Zucker. And like Zucker was like one of the first people that like really reached out to me night one. And he was someone who I really wanted to work with in the game. But it just wasn't meant to be.
Wasn't meant to be.
Well, our next question is from Corey Conway. Jeremy Irvin, Serious question. Can we finally call off this war? Can we work together for reals? I'll cut Denny and go to the end with you if you say yes. Love you, man. It truly is always an honor to play with you, no matter what the outcome.
Yeah. So Corey and I, we do have a great relationship out of games. Like he is a really good friend to me, and he's like one of the most caring people I've ever met. But it's like what he said, like in his exit interview, like we are just like oil and water in games. I do feel like I finally got my revenge. So yeah, I wouldn't mind burying the hatchet.
Outlasted him in every game?
I did. But
this outlasting him.
Okay, so I did watch his exit interview, and he was just like, he voted me out every time. He rocked me out. That's only because in the first game we played, it was Denny's idea to vote him out. I just went along with it. I had nothing else to do. Second time it happened when he got rocked out, it was a big argument in Final Tribal Council on who really got the group together to rock out Corey. So this time I really wanted to make sure that it was me. And even if people say otherwise, I will take credit because I did sprinkle seeds in a lot of people about Corey and his gameplay, and you saw what happens.
Love that.
I love but the
is
hatch
the
is
truth
buried.
called? Is the hatchet buried?
We can bury the hatchet.
How deep is that hatchet buried?
I will say it is finally buried. If I'm going to play another game, that's a whole different story. We'll just have to see.
That's fair. I'm going to switch up Mike's question a little bit because it's sort of similar to Kylie's, where we talked about who would you have worked with on Ignis, but we were saying that in the sense of you starting there. I'm going to switch it up to if you did not have the immunity necklace, you go home the first round instead of Austin. So you switch with Garsow. I almost said Garsow because I was listening to Corey, and I'm sorry. So you and Garsow switch. How are you maneuvering that? Because obviously you have Brittley there, so I'm assuming you would go to her first. But then from there, what do you think you would have done?
Yeah, I immediately reach out to Brittley and Karen and see like, okay, what's the vibe? What are people doing? Just save me for a vote. I don't care. I just need a little bit of time to work my magic. I really did want to work with Simmons. If he was in the game, he was someone I really wanted to work with. Not only because of like his challenge strength, but just like the way that he can just slither through a game is incredible. Yeah, I would have tried to hit every connection that I had and then really hit in on the people I really didn't know. So like Danny, Mike, Lydia, those three.
Okay. Well, in terms of the Simmons of it all, you will need to get like one of those deli tickets and get in line, because it seems like at the moment everybody was like, I'm Simmons number one. No, yeah. I am. Everyone thinks that they're Simmons' main person. Well, second to last question is from your boy Lex. And it's not just one question, because why could Lex only give one question? I have to say, getting to know you in the earlier game was amazing. When I was watching the season recaps and knowing you were on prod, I knew if you came to play All-Stars, you would be a threat in this game. Your stealth-like gameplay is incredible, but enough game talk. Let's get to know Jer Bear. Rapid fire. Ready? This has to be rapid fire.
Yeah.
Cocktail choice.
Old fashioned.
Favorite band or artist?
Martin Garrix.
Donuts or pastries?
Donuts.
Night in or night out?
Night in.
Favorite Survivor player of all time?
Jackie from Alamana Beach.
Love that. Well, no, I need a Survivor player.
Then we'll go DCP.
Well, then we'll go DCP.
Oh, favorite Survivor player. Ooh, oh gosh. Shit. Mike Holloway.
Mike Holloway. Okay, and then favorite DCP player of all time, and why is it me?
Lex, you are in one of my top 5, but I got to give it to Jackie from La Lumana Beach.
Rachel or Monica?
Ooh, Rachel.
All right.
Okay, that's enough rapid fire. But as always, this leads to the last question. Made by host of DCP, or one of the hosts, me. Hey, it's me, Mr. Positivity. I would love for you to think about one positive thing you took away from your All-Star experience.
Ooh. Oh, positive thing. I really do think that I made very deep connections way faster than I normally do, especially like in a long game type format, which I'm not known for the best for. And so I think that was something that was really good for my game, and I was really proud of. Is just even though people say that like I didn't talk as much game in the first 24 hours, I really do feel like I made like some really good connections with pretty much everyone on the tribe. And I was really proud of that. Because my game is really meant for a mini. I don't like people getting to think for days on end. Like I need fast decisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really happy with the connections I made.
Awesome.
I love that answer. Lilly, McKenna, do either of you have Ian's 2 questions?
Yes, so Ian has 2 questions. His first is, if you could replace Yasawa All-Star player with somebody from the original season, so take out one of the 4 of you, obviously not yourself, so one of the other 3, and replace it with somebody else from the Yasawa, and they would take their place. So if you replace Karen, they're on the other tribe. Who do you replace and why?
And with who?
All right, where's the hatchet now?
Oh, it's tough because I do have a name, but I'm just like, who do they replace? I would probably replace Austin Moorhead with David.
I knew you were gonna say that. I was like, because then you won't get pegged as the duo, in my opinion, or the trio of Yasawa, because all 3 of you kind of didn't really work together like all that much. You and David definitely not, but like you and Corey were like together and then separated. So I feel like that would have opened your game up a lot had David been there.
But also, I think David could have probably even been like a better medium for the 2 of you.
Yeah,
just like his personality. I feel like he'd be like, okay, this is an option. Hey guys, come together.
Yeah, and like I love David. I think his game style is fantastic, and I really do wish that we could have worked together in Yasawa Islands. I mean, like he did try to put together an all guys alliance with himself, me, and Austin Moorhead, which I had to chop off once he got voted out. But I really would like to work with him in a game. So
I will say it's a little easy to do an all guys alliance when there's only like 2 girls on the cast. But
the times have changed. Well, and his second question is, who are your DCP, or who's on your DCP Mount Rushmore? So 4 people from DCP, not including All Stars.
Just not All Stars play.
Right, the season of All Stars, just so we don't give anything away. Who is on your Mount Rushmore?
I definitely just got to say David for one, just because his resilience to stay alive in Yasawa Islands. Trying to think. I'd say Lydia, Advantage Queen, Idol Queen. I gotta go actually with also Morgan along similar lines.
Yeah.
She's a very all-around player. And then trying to think. I can't remember his name, the winner of Monte Carlo.
Jonathan.
Jonathan, yeah.
The good Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's why I love this question. There is no wrong answer for
Yeah.
your Mount Rushmore.
It is a question. Well, and my final question, in case McKenna has one to round us out, is if you could sum up your game in one word, what would it be and why?
There is one word, but I can't say it for the YouTube recording. I would definitely say a roller coaster.
Mhm.
Yeah. McKenna knows what I went through the day that Corey was put out.
Yeah. We had some confessional time.
Yeah, we had to have some heart to heart.
Yeah. I am very proud of you for stepping in and playing again, because you have gone through the ringer with orgs in general, and then stepping back in to play with a long game format involved is a lot of work, and I commend you for it, because you did have a target on your back. You have a challenge named after you. You have seasons on production, whether you were involved or not. That's still seeing people's gameplay more than just watching the episodes. So I just want to say thank you again for jumping back in the saddle and giving it a good old college try.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to all of production on DCP for the invitation back. I did have fun. I will say that, despite the roller coaster that I had to go through. But just thank you all. It's always a pleasure playing one of your games, and then also getting to chat with you all about the season. So thank you.
Alrighty. Well, this is it for Jeremy's exit. Stay tuned the rest of the week. We've got another episode coming. We've got more exits. We have I'm gonna cut that. We have some more exits. We have the Sunday show. We've got so much content coming your way. And then keep following us. Social medias, Instagram, Facebook, you know the things. All right. And we will catch you in the next exit interview.